Okay, hello. Let me turn down the music a little bit. That there. Hello. Welcome, my name is Dew. As you may know, or maybe you don't know, I just recently got back from a week-long trip to New York City. Hello, Shami. And yes, I did have... I basically was like, I should probably have music for this stream, and threw together, like, just a quick quote-unquote America/New York City playlist from my music library, which is basically half like Civilization America themes, and the other half is other sort of related things, which did include the New Donk City music. I thought that was funny. But yes, hello, welcome. I have a bunch of pictures and stories and discussion to share from when we went, and I'm also a little bit more structured this time compared to the Europe trip, because I kind of didn't want to go into it as messy as I did. It still wasn't as great because I ended up not using PowerPoint because fuck Microsoft. Last time I was screwed over by Apple, now I'm getting screwed over by Microsoft, but it's fine. But it's still just slideshow mode. However, I have these like nice little transition slides between days and whatnot, so I can keep better track of when I am in the trip. And I've ordered the pictures appropriately and whatnot. However, I haven't labeled them because I may have been a little confident in knowing what the stuff is, which to be fair is probably justified. But there might still be a couple things that I'd have to remind myself what they were. Not as bad as I think being in Rome and having to figure out what like 10 different churches things are where I needed the labels on the pictures, but yeah. Anyway, welcome. I'm going to just get right into it. We had to get up like at the ass crack of dawn on the first day. So we got to the city actually reasonably like midday, but most of that day was spent just kind of heading to the hotel. And in hindsight, I should have taken a picture of our hotel room because we actually had an interesting, or I should have did it, whatever, it's fine. We got to the city. We had a what I thought was a really nice hotel, like in like the Broadway part of city. I think technically we were in Hell's Kitchen, funny enough, but it's like right next to Broadway, basically, which is conveniently like located right in the middle of everything. We were able to walk a majority of our days there, and I did mark on the map. Oh, you can see my cursor, good. I did mark on the map where it is, and you'll notice on all the future maps that it's there because that's where we traveled from every day. And the hotel, it was admittedly cheap, but I thought it was nicer than the place we stayed in Florida recently that felt dingy and gross and like I didn't feel comfortable going back to every night. But this place was nice. It was, however, basically a slice. I should have taken a picture of it, but like it was literally. By the way, I went with just my sister, so it was just me and my sister. So it was only two of us. But it was basically just a bathroom, which was like 60% a shower, and then a pair of bunk beds, which weren't even like twin size mattress bunk. They were like smaller, like slightly like smaller mattress bunk beds, a desk and a chair with the desk had a safe under, and that was it. It was just like a slice. It was maybe a door and a half wide of a room. But it was nice, and it was convenient because it was located right next to a subway station and walkable from like a large chunk of like a decent chunk of the city here. I would say was like more than reasonable, like walking distance to us. Also, by the way, this is just Manhattan, not the entire city, because there was nothing relevant enough outside of Manhattan for me to bother with for this trip. Yeah, then that's why the map is just Manhattan. But yeah. So yeah, first day, we get there, we go get to our hotel, which lugging the suitcases through the city was a little bit miserable, but it was fine. We arrived through Penn Station, which wasn't too terribly far from the hotel we were staying at. And then the only thing we had really planned for that day was, as you see on here, we got to sit in the audience for a Jimmy Fallon, like taping, like live taping, to be like the audience, and that was not like my plans or thoughts for the trip, but it was something my sister just kind of did in the month leading up to it. Is like she put us on the list for it and got us into it, and something she wanted to do, so I was like, yeah, sure, and it was free, so like that was neat. That was the only big thing for this first day. However, in the first day, we did go do a little looking around the town, and oh yeah, here since we were basically staying right next to Times Square, so like we got a couple pictures of Times Square here, and we pretty much walked through this part of the city like every day. Who was his guess? We'll get to that when we actually went there. I'm gonna get the couple things we did at the beginning of the day before that happens in the evening. I did make sure like the first thing we actually truly did was go to the Nintendo store, mainly because I'm addicted to Amiibo and wanted to make sure to purchase Amiibo that I knew were only available there while they were still there, and I don't think they would have gone anywhere, but like I just in my mind I had to camp out for those years ago. I wanted to make sure I got the Amiibo I wanted while I was there, while absolute earliest as I can. We went to the Nintendo store, which was actually really cool. It was 2 floors, had a bunch of stuff, and they had like these big like character statues in it as well. They had Pikmin, and then they also had this display that had like every Nintendo console, like every little like this is the handheld side. I got the non-handheld on the other side, but like even just like the handheld side, there's so many like all the variations, like all the different Game Boys, all the different DSs were here. It wasn't just like the basic like each like just one main representative of the family of handhelds. And then the like console side was also had a lot. Like it has the Virtual Boy, it had a Rob in it. I'd never seen a Rob before, and it also had the Hanafuda cards down here, and then the TV color games too. Like yeah, it was neat. Yeah, it was a really nice store, and I bought an excessive amount of Amiibo. Then we headed towards Rockefeller Center, which is where the Jimmy Fallon taping was, and there's like a big statue they have outside of that on the way. And there, at the Rockefeller Center, was the one of the Lego stores in the city. I have some pictures from that too. They had some big Lego displays in the store. They had this big one with like the taxi and like Lego Captain America and like the Avengers, because New York City. But yeah. Oh, and here's the gay Rockefeller Center Plaza, because it was Pride Month, so there were lots of flags. I expected lots of flags regardless in New York City, but they were out with Pride, and we did actually end up unintentionally at a Pride parade on one of the days. That's later though. But yeah. Yeah, we're at the Rockefeller Center here, and this is where Jimmy Fallon was taped. There's no picture. I have no pictures of anything from that, because they were very clear at the beginning of that, like, you needed to have your phone off, like not just like on silence. They said, turn your phones off now. If we hear or see anything whatsoever, you're going to be escorted out. So no photos or anything from the Jimmy Fallon thing. You asked who the guests were for his. To be perfectly honest, I don't know their names. My sister knew who one of them was. She was there because she was about to start doing like a Broadway show, like a one-woman Broadway show, but she was on a TV show of some sort. I don't know. His second guest though was the new Supergirl, like her actress. I also don't know her name. I'm not into DC, but I at least did know who she was. And obviously Supergirl, I think, was coming out that week, and that's why she was on. And they discussed that movie and whatnot, and he actually gave us all... No, the Supergirl was probably the most famous of the three. Yeah. I thought they were filming 3 episodes of it while we were there, but he only filmed 1. I guess it was some confusion and communication from my sister that there were 3 guests. I thought that meant 3 episodes, I think. But no, it was just the 3 on the episode that we were there for. And apparently the day after we were there, they had Lin-Manuel Miranda, which disappointed my sister because she really would have rather seen him, and oh well. But yeah, no, the second guest was the actress for Supergirl, and because that was his like main guest for that episode, he gave out everyone in the audience free IMAX tickets, which they said during the thing was like to go see Supergirl. However, the tickets that they actually gave us was just a code to get a free IMAX ticket to anything, as long as we do it within the rest of the year. So we're gonna go see Spider-Man with them instead, because Spider-Man IMAX sounds a lot more interesting. Yep, exactly, Bree, Spider-Man. We're gonna go see the new Spider-Man movie in IMAX because of that. They gave each guest 2 tickets. So with me and my sister, we actually have 4. So we're gonna go see it with my dad and brother as well, and it'd be cool. And Spider-Man, I think, is gonna be a really cool movie to see in IMAX. Thank you, Jimmy Fallon. But yeah, and then the last guest he had on for the evening was some comedian, and that's about all I'm gonna. That's about as much as I could tell you. it was some comedian. He, I think, just had like a Netflix special released or something, and that's why he had him on there. And all he did was like do like a stand-up bit at the very end of the episode. He didn't like sit down and talk with Jimmy Fallon or anything. Like he was just kind of like at the end was like, hey, here's my friend. He's doing some comedy for his special. Was he any good? I remember him being fine. I couldn't frankly tell you. This was too long ago for me to remember like any of the jokes or whatnot. He was fine though. He did good. I remember chuckling as much as I chuckle at jokes and whatnot. So yeah, he was fine. But yeah, that was the Jimmy Fallon thing. It was really cool just seeing how it all went about, even if there wasn't any like crazy famous people. Sensible chuckle out of 10. Correct, yeah. But yeah, also I realized I don't have chat on screen, but whatever, it's fine. We're here for pictures. So yeah, that was day 1. I think that's the last picture we have. Oh, there's another picture of the gay plaza that's up close to the fancy fountain they got here. But yeah, day 2. Day 2, bigger day. More stuff happening on day 2, so much so that I only fit Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island on here, but there's reasonably a decent bit more than that. But the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island were like the big part of the day. So, and we were up early for this day because we needed to be down. This is one of the things that I had to have booked way in advance in a very specific time slot. And they claimed that just the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island would take like a whole day of your trip or whatnot. It would take a long time. And to be fair, it was a decent amount of time, but we definitely had time to do other stuff throughout the day. But yeah, that as you see here, you had to take a ferry to the islands down here from the financial district. So before we even get to Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, we do get a little bit of time in the financial district down there. But here's, and we went to Battery Park, which has a little thing in it called Castle Clinton, which is like an old fort from like pre-revolutionary period. But here's like the first of many pictures that are in this slideshow of the Statue of Liberty. This is from the dock, like basically Battery Park, like the main like viewing platform of the statue from like Manhattan. So basically like right here where my cursor is, this is the view that you can get of the Statue of Liberty. So yeah, we head out. You had to go through like airport security, which they warned like you need at least an hour to go through. And that was bullshit. That took like 5 minutes to get through. But yeah, you take a ferry. Here's the statue from behind. This is coming off of the dock, like off the ferry, getting onto the island. And I took some pictures of the city itself from Liberty Island. So you can see here's like the One World Trade Center. So this is like the big downtown. And I think here's different views of this stuff over here. The city is New Jersey. So this is New York City. This is New Jersey. And then these little buildings over here, that's Ellis Island. Yeah. And here's a view of the statue from the steps leading up to the museum on the island. There's this big plaza here with this big flagpole. And then we got some pictures up close from the front here. Then we have going up it. This is the UNESCO Heritage Site plaque that's in the base of the monument. I didn't actually know the Statue of Liberty was a World Heritage Site before this trip. I maybe did at one point know that, but yeah, it was neat. And then they're also in the museum that was not the main museum, but like the museum that's in the base of the statue. They have the New Colossus, like well-known poem that was originally this plaque for the poem was on the outside of it, but as it says here, they moved it inside into this museum section for unspecified reasons. I don't know why they moved it, but it was in here. So yeah, this is us going up because I did book us way in advance so that we could go up inside of it. And this is at the very bottom, like inside of the statue itself, so not like the stone base, but statue. So this is all like the copper sheeting, and this is like the scaffolding inside, and you can see this is the tiny spiral staircase that you use to go all the way up, and it's got like little stopping points on the way. So I got a couple more pictures of it. I think this one's pointing downwards from like a halfway stop point up, a stopping point halfway up words. I got one more on the inside. Yeah, I think this is going up or looking up into the arm, I believe. Yeah, and then this is a view of the city from the top. The view from the top is kind of meh. Honestly, the cooler part of going up it is seeing all this guy, like just seeing the inner workings on the inside. I thought this was much cooler and worth it over just seeing, because once you're in the crown, because you can't go up in the torch anymore. Once you're up in the crown, this is your view, and it's a small little window. It's not the best view of the city because it's more so facing out to the water. Here you can see the arm here, but it is still really cool. Here's a view back towards the island from like the base of the statue. And then I got some pictures of this is the museum back here. Do I have a... Oh, nope. I must not have. The museum was neat. It basically showed like how they built it. It had a couple like recreations of parts of the statue in the original copper, and some relics from when they've had to do revamps. Like they had to take off certain parts of the statue and replace them for just wear and stuff. They had those in there. I also thought it was really funny this entire museum was sponsored and created because Liberty Mutual funded it, which if you're not an American, you don't know, but Liberty Mutual is an insurance company whose logo is the Statue of Liberty, and they have the worst commercials in all of the insurance world. But they are known for filming their commercials like with a view of the Statue of Liberty in the background. But yeah, here's that took us maybe an hour or so, and then you get on a ferry to go to Ellis Island next. They're packaged together because they're both they're not the same national monument thing within the National Park Service, but the National Park Service just kind of puts them together because of the way you have to get to them. Yeah, this is a view of the statue leaving, and then I got a couple pictures of Ellis Island. Ellis Island is really cool, and these are just the only. Or no, it isn't. But these are pictures of the buildings from the outside here, on the dock. And Ellis Island was a big museum, basically explaining the history of like how the immigration process worked on the island while it was being used for that. It stopped being used for that in like the 60s. But it showed just lots and lots of stuff about like how there's so many people were coming through and going through this like really old, pretty outdated system of just cramming everyone in this place off the boats, because back then like they didn't know who was and wasn't coming, and it took a long time to cross the ocean and whatnot. So they'd get here, half of them would be sick, so there's like a hospital wing, and they'd only let them through once they weren't sick, and then they'd have to like go through the process. And I think they said like something like, oh, was it 85%? It was a pretty high percentage, like were, you know, let through. But like the other like remaining 10% or whatever it was had to be sent back, which was a big deal for them because they were mostly peasant, like poor people fleeing places like fucking Imperial Russia and shit like that. Like they were not usually well off, so they had spent their lives kind of getting to that point. But yeah, and then there wasn't a ton to take pictures of in the museum itself. It was mostly just like digital visuals and explanations and whatnot. But this was a picture I took. This is a display they had of a bunch of different foreign money that they had from when people were crossing over and exchanging it. So there's like really old bills and coins and stuff in here. And was there another? Oh yeah, they did have this display. And admittedly, I should have taken, because this is what Ellis Island was originally, like at the earliest points. And then they had like these model displays of how it expanded and was built over time. I only took a picture of the first and last one. Admittedly, I maybe should have gotten some of the middle, but like, this is how big the island is now. And if you even look on the maps, you'll see like Ellis Island is a very artificial shape to it. The original island's like just a tiny chunk of this side over here. Like, it just over time, a lot of land reclamation, and it's just a big facility now. And this building over here is not modern, but like also it's the current building and where the museum was. This whole side over here, I don't think was normally accessible without a tour, and we didn't do a tour. Like, this is, I think, the hospital part of the island, or the facility. But yeah, we spent like a good couple hours here. It was really neat. But yeah, after that, we had still quite a bit of the day left, as they lied to us about how long that would take. But so we spent that in the like financial district down here in the lower end of Manhattan. As the New York Stock Exchange was a bit more out of the way and like kind of off in a smaller street than I would have expected it to be in. But yeah, then this is all we got. You cannot enter this. Us normal peasants cannot enter the New York Stock Exchange. And admittedly, maybe for good reason nowadays. That's a more recent post 9/11 change. But yeah, and this guard did not like. He didn't like us. Yeah, he was just kind of staring us down. I don't know if he was truly like staring us down, but he wasn't having a good day, whatever it was. And he ended up in my picture, funny enough. But yeah, and then right near here was this place that I'm glad we did end up getting to do. I wasn't sure if we were going to. This is the Federal Hall, which is probably a more lesser known or realized is in New York City type landmark. But Federal Hall is the kind of original Capitol building for the United States, because DC was a like pre-planned city that came about after the Revolution in the United States. So for the entirety of George Washington's presidency, it operated from this building. Like, there was a brief time during the Revolution, I think, that Philadelphia was the capital, but then New York City was the capital. And this was the Capitol building, hence it's called Federal Hall. And it's not a big building, but they had some artifacts from back when that was the case, like this stone here, that is what, like this balcony stone that Washington stood on when he took his oath of office. This is a replica of Washington's desk they would have had, and they had some paintings. Up here's a painting of the oath of office that took place here. This was a little not a diorama, setup they had, because after it was the Capitol building-ish, I believe they used it for the Treasury. After things moved down to DC, it was used as a Treasury building for the federal government. So they kind of had, this was on display to, like, for that, to show that was the thing. But yeah, after that, we then went towards the park nearby that had New York City's City Hall in it, which was more difficult to navigate than I expected. This is a statue that was in there of Horace Greeley, founded the city, or had art to do with founding the modern New York City. This is the New York City City Hall. This was the best shot I could get of it. You couldn't really get very close to it, surprisingly. I've been to less secured national government buildings than what this City Hall was. Like, you could not get close to the New York City Hall. Meanwhile, I could just walk right up to, like, the Swiss Capitol building or the Italian Senate building. But yeah, after this, I believe, after that, we had our first musical. We got to go to 2 Broadway musicals. This evening was our first one, which was Hadestown. Here's the theater it was in. Every, like, Broadway theater has, like, its musical that it is playing for the time, and Hadestown has been in this one for 7 years. And I think is the longest one they've had in this theater, which is usually a sign that it was a very popular and successful musical, and this one is. It was really good. I should have looked it up, but it's a modern retelling of a Greek tragedy that I don't know the name of. I should have looked up what the name of the Greek tragedy was, but it's the one about Orpheus and Eurydice. And it involves going to, like, Hades and whatnot, and it was good. My sister really liked it. I really liked it. I think I got a picture of the stage here because, again, it was like no filming or on phone during actual musical time, but before the musical, I took a picture of the stage. So this is the stage that they performed on. It was about 2.5 hours, I think, which I think is normal for, like, a Broadway musical. Yeah. And the actors they had for it were really good. I liked their Hades. The guy they had playing Hades was good at it. Anyway, day 3. That also, by the way, the musical resulted in us. I think it ended at 10. And then after that, you could, like, this was a thing I didn't know that you could do at musicals, but apparently afterwards, if you go and wait outside the theater, here, can you see it? Here? You kind of can see it over here to the side. This is the stage door. This is where I guess the backstage staff and the actors and whatnot, like, enter in from. And after a musical is, like, over, you can go and wait outside here and, like, line up, and you can, like, get pictures and, like, autographs and stuff with the actors from the musical. I didn't know that was a thing, but it was, and something my sister knew, and so we did that. So, like, it ended at 10, but then, like, for another half hour we waited out here, and she got her playbill, which was the little book they give you at the beginning, like, showing who's performing and whatnot. She got her playbill signed by a few of the actors for the musical, which was neat. But yeah, anyway, day 3, which, by the way, there's 8 days, though the 8th one is kind of a non-day. So, yeah. This day we went to United Nations headquarters in Midtown, which Midtown is just kind of this chunk of town here. Or I think technically it's the whole way through, but for my purposes, it's this side. But yeah. First thing we did on this day was, on the way towards the UN headquarters, was this church. This is St. Patrick's Cathedral. Really big, fancy Catholic cathedral in the middle of, like, is basically still Broadway, but not quite Broadway. But yeah, there's got a couple pictures of it here from the outside. And then inside is like every Catholic cathedral I've been in, which has mostly been from going over to Europe last year. There's just so much to take pictures of in here. It's crazy, like, how decorated and pretty these buildings are. Like, from the inside, like, every little one of these, like, alcoves on the side just had something. Like, you couldn't take enough pictures of it. But what I thought was really funny in particular was at the very back of this one were these very American murals that they had in here. Like, especially this one that just has the New York City police and firefighters here underneath the angel. I thought that was really funny. But then they got, like, the immigrants coming off the boat and whatnot. I thought these murals they had in the back were very, very funny. God bless cops. Yeah, that's what this one screams. It's. Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that until literally just now. The angel is holding a firefighter helmet. That's hilarious. God, this is. Yeah. Yeah. Aside from this very American thing in the back, the rest of the church was kind of your standard Catholic church stuff. It was like just lots of little alcoves with like, I don't know what to call them, memorials or monuments or just art pieces of like saints and biblical figures and whatnot. But yeah, I have a ton of those types of pictures from Rome, so I didn't take a ton in here, but it was very similar stuff. Maybe a little bit newer, I guess, in terms of like, it didn't like look newer or older. I guess maybe the stone didn't seem as aged. I don't know. It's very similar stuff though. And also the upper section was just tons of like stained glass like this. Like I didn't take much picture of the stained glass, but there was just lots of stained glass scenes in the upper sections of the cathedral. But yeah, after that, we headed over to the UN headquarters, which this was a whole process to get us into. I had to like, I had to basically book it. I don't think it cost me anything, but it was like I had to book it a month in advance and had to give them like photo ID and register us like for both of us in advance. So and we had to like across the street over here off, and we're like in a very uninteresting like little commercial leased building. Basically, was a little office. You would go get like visitor badges printed out, and you'd like wear those to enter. Which that had like the photo ID that we gave them like on it. Like, yeah, it was a whole thing to get in. I got a few buildings. This is a pretty recognizable building, I would say. But yeah, once you're in, there's just it's really neat. This is an art piece they had out. It was called The Sphere in the Sphere, I think. I didn't know this at the time, but I think this is a reference to an art piece that used to be at the Twin Towers that isn't anymore. Hence why this new one was over here, I believe. Like, I think the one at the Twin Towers was just the Sphere, which is a similar thing, but this is a one that's got like a sphere inside the sphere. Then also outside it was this one, the pretty noteworthy one, just called Nonviolence. Yeah. Then inside they also had lots of them. They had this statue of Nelson Mandela, which I thought was kind of funny. Just I don't know why it's funny. Just the way he's holding his hands up, I think, is an interesting pose for a statue. But yeah, he greets you basically as you enter. We got a tour of the place, which isn't yet. I have this picture here in this gift shop. They had a giant Lego recreation of the headquarters. Absolute Mandelism, yeah. But yeah, we got on a tour of the place, and throughout the place they have like art and other things. Like each country, not every single one, but a lot of them have donated to the UN, just kind of in a show of like, not alignment, I guess alignment with their ideals and whatnot. Like this is oh, I should know where it's from, but this is a Middle Eastern gift. Or is it? Actually, can I read the plaque here? It's from Malaysia. Okay, not Middle Eastern, but it is Islamic. And then I believe, yeah, here this is what the U.S. has here, which is a big tapestry, not tapestry, but mosaic. So it's like you can see here up close. It's like the Roman style, like mosaic piece. This one is from, I believe, Thailand. Yeah, Thailand. You can see here, it's a big model of one of their like ships, like the royal ships that king would come through on. This one, this isn't from a country. I believe this is, it actually says, yeah, International Buddhist World Peace Stupa. It was like a thing that like did a tour of global like Buddhist locations, I guess, and they have it here now. Oh, and this is a giant tapestry from Ukraine titled Chernobyl. I think, which speaks for what it represents. But yeah, this was something. It was a big piece that they had and showed us. Very anime. I think this. Well, I don't know when. I guess it would have been in the was Chernobyl in the 80s. Anime have been around yet? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah. Outside of the art, we did actually get to see. I think we got to see all but one of the big like rooms that you could enter. But what am I trying to think of the word for the? I guess committee rooms. Or, this is. Oh, do I remember? This is the one I don't actually remember what the name was. This is one of the. Or mine. I can figure this out. This is on this. I can figure out which part of the UN this is. The United Nations. Can't see anything I'm doing. That's fine. No, the Secretariat's the thing we couldn't go in. Nope, that's next. Okay, wait. That means the Security Council. Nope, Security Council's the one we couldn't go in. That's okay. International Court of Justice, that's the Hague. I'll figure this out. Give me a moment. Oh, wait. The picture's what I want. This is the UN Trusteeship Council, which is basically a council that exists for progressing decolonization was kind of the explanation of that one. Sorry, I had to figure that out because it was the one I didn't remember. This one here is the like Economic Council. Which at the time, it was UN Open Source Week, which I thought was funny. Which I'm assuming was they had been spending the week discussing like open sourcing all of like the government structures rather than fucking working with Microsoft and Apple and shit, which is funny. And here's the noteworthy one. This is the General Assembly room. This is the one you see in fucking movies and on news and whatnot, where all of the countries are gathered for whatever they were discussing at the time. I get a second picture of that one? Nope, I did not include a second picture. I did narrow down my pictures. There's like 300 something pictures in here, and I took out maybe like 40 or 50. But yeah. Yeah, that's the UN. Our tour guide was really good. I did learn some things. I was the one who answered a lot of the questions she asked along the way because they were easy and I knew them. But I did learn some stuff about how the UN functions, which was neat. Yeah, on our way out, after that, we did this kind of the smaller other miscellaneous stuff around on this side of the town in quote unquote Midtown. So this is a picture of the Chrysler Building. We didn't go in this one, which is why all you get is this kind of really bad, low-angled picture of the Chrysler Building. This is Grand Central Station. This is a very, I think, recognizable thing. Again, a lot of movies, including Madagascar. They're called not Escape. Is it Escape from Madagascar? No, that's the second one. I forget the actual name of the DreamWorks movie now. Is it just Madagascar? Rug. Anyway, there's a scene even in that movie that this is very recognizable from, despite it being animated. Anyway, I mean, this is the ceiling of it, by the way. You can kind of see up here. This is the ceiling. I've never really seen it. It's actually kind of a neat, like, art piece across the here. We passed by the New York Public Library here, which I think is pretty recognizable, like the lion statues out front of it. And then after that, we went up the Empire State Building. We did actually enter. I don't actually know if I took any pictures from the outside for the same reasoning as the Chrysler Building. It's just really difficult to take a picture of a building that tall from like right underneath it. Yeah, we did go in the Empire State Building. And I got just oh yeah, this model of it here on the way up. Also, by the way, I haven't mentioned this yet, but the damn FIFA World Cup was happening throughout this entire trip, which was not my intention. I didn't realize it was going to be happening for half a month, including the time that we were there. So there was just fucking football and soccer shit everywhere, including in here. This whole thing has just got soccer jerseys. And it was not my... Yeah, no, it was... Trust me, I would not have intentionally planned this trip to be happening during the World Cup that was happening partially in New York City. Good God, it's a problem later. We'll get to that. But it did mean there was probably above average crowding. I don't know, honestly. I wasn't over it at the end. I was over it specifically during the very last day. The FIFA, the World Cup stuff, it was kind of like, you know, okay, I wouldn't have preferred this to be happening while I was there, but it wasn't like causing problems until the last day when we were trying to leave. That's when it pissed me the fuck off. But we'll see. We'll get to that. So yeah, top of the Empire State Building. Actually, not the top. It would have cost like a decent bit more. Like, this is the first observation part of the Empire State Building. There's an even higher one, like I want to say like 20 floors higher or something like that. That would have cost me like double or something like that. I wasn't doing that. There was no point. Yeah, there's just gonna be a lot of pictures of the city from the top of the Empire State Building. You're free to try and recognize stuff in them. There's not much for me to say other than the fact that there's a bunch of them. I believe this is from the inside. There's an outside part later. Yeah, here you can see from there's no longer the window color. I'm like actually outside up on top of the building now. I got some pictures from like every direction at the top here. You can just see lots of parts. This, I think this over here is Brooklyn / Queens. I think this is that direction, not New Jersey. Yeah, you can just see a lot of the city from here. Is really cool. Oh yeah, on our way back. That's all the pictures from the Empire State Building. But one last picture for this day, because that was the last thing we did. On our way back, there's this little police station, like right in Times Square. And for whatever reason, while we were on our way back, there was like somewhere between 30 to 50 police officers just crowded outside of it, all like talking and doing something. I don't know what was going on, and I could have gotten a better picture of it. I wasn't gonna like go out of my way to like be very obvious, like taking a picture of all the police. But there was a crowd of like, it had to be at least 40 police officers just outside of this tiny little station. I don't know what was going on, but it was like kind of interesting as we were walking. I was like, hey, what's going on over there? That's interesting. But anyway, so that happened. Day four, we have, well, I labeled it as the Museum of New York City, but I believe it's called the Museum of the City of New York. At least, oh yeah, that did happen immediately after we got back. My mom texted me, it was like, you missed the show. Yeah, that was something that happened. Maybe talk about that. We can just talk about it now because you brought it up. It's not related to the trip because it happened afterwards, but those people that climbed the Empire State Building and then got themselves arrested happened literally, I think, the day after we left. So that was something. That would have been interesting to I don't know if we would have knew it was happening while we were there or not. But yeah, day 4, Museum of New York City, and then I just put in generally Hamilton because we go to the National Memorial called the Hamilton Grange, which is his house, and then we also do Hamilton the musical that night. I thought it was kind of clever. They put those two together on the same day. But yeah, first thing we did that day was go up to the museum, which resulted in us couldn't see from here from the trip. The station put us out like here, so we actually crossed through Central Park a little bit. So we got a couple pictures of Central Park here, which is actually wild. It feels like an actual forest in the middle of the city, so it's actually really weird, kind of seeing like the city outside past the trees. But yeah. Oh, and this is like a sidewalk path like along the outside of the park is also neat because it's like tree covered. Anyway, Museum of the City of New York, really cool museum. It's just a historical museum about the city itself. A lot of it was like digital visual stuff, so they had like maps like showing the demographics in various stuff over time, which I thought was really neat, and like a lot of just small, minor, not too crazy worth picture type artifacts. But one big room here you see here that they had was just this scale like miniature model of the city itself, like all these little buildings just made of like cardboard and glue, I think is what they said, of the city. And I took a few pictures, and basically I don't know how it ended up here, but the story is that at some point in the 80s, just some guy started working on this. He intended to make like a part of Manhattan and just kept going and going until he ended up making this entire gigantic model of the whole city and a little bit outside of it. And as far as I'm aware, he's not like a noteworthy person. It was just his hobby for like 20 years. And then somehow it ended up with this museum in like the mid 2000s. So yeah, it is really cool. It's one of the coolest parts of this museum, I think. But yeah. Anyway, other parts of the museum we have where there's a room showing like history of various like protests and activist movements in the city, which one of them was this one like class one in like the early 1900s, which had these the Communist Party posters that I thought were funny. This one's like anti-landlord poster. Yeah, poor landlords. Yeah. I thought those were funny. We need that for our, yeah, literally this one right here. Give me a copy of this. This is funny. But yeah, then the top floor I think was like a bunch about the Revolutionary War, because New York City was occupied for most of the Revolutionary War. The recapture of New York City was like kind of the big winning victory thing for the Americans during the war. So that's like a large chunk of the museum here is about the Revolutionary occupation. This is like got a Revolutionary War uniform. They had this document here, which I will forever hang over Brie, because it's outright stating all British government and followers of the British Army are commonly called Tories. So yeah, Brie, you're a Tory as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, carrying on. After Revolution, as I explained earlier, New York City was the capital. Yeah, I know. New York City was the capital for a bit, which meant George Washington was here for a while, as he was like an active, like, public official. So they had a handful of artifacts that belonged to George Washington. Like this was as they described it, an apron that belonged to him. This was a pocket watch that belonged to George Washington. And more interestingly about it is this little thing here. You cannot tell from the picture, but you can from the plaque that was here describing it. This is his tooth. George Washington famously did not have very good teeth and wore dentures for most of his life. But this is his, I believe, actual tooth that he, I guess, just kept in his pocket watch. which is interesting. And then I believe, yeah, this is a pair of his glasses, and then this is a tuft of his hair that they had for some reason. Again, I don't know why they had a tuft of George Washington's hair, but it was here, and it was in the Museum of the City of New York. So yeah, time to clone the president. Let's not perhaps do that. Anyway, next in the day, after the museum, we had to go, let me go, here. We went from the museum. We had to go all the way up here into like not northern, because all of this is Harlem, but like up into like Harlem is where Alexander Hamilton's house was. So that's where we went next. This is just a like marble Roman bust he had in his house. Hamilton's like writing. I don't know. Well, they said how much of the furniture was like actually original to the house, and it wasn't a lot because there's some history behind this house surviving into the present day. So I'm not. I think this desk was original? Question mark. Some of the stuff was, some of it wasn't. I don't know. There's this dining room. This is, I think, the living room with the piano. I think the piano definitively was original. Fireplace. Oh, we'll get to that. But yeah, I want to explain one thing that they had like on a documentary video in like the visitors entrance part of this place. Was this house currently present day is located in like a park, like just a city park, and it is part of like just another National Park Service owned thing, but it's been moved twice. Like the entire house has been like uprooted and moved twice. It used to be more in the city itself. Like when Hamilton built it, it would have kind of been countryside, despite the fact that it was Manhattan, because back then the city was more so just down where the financial district was, just at the very end of Manhattan. So Hamilton got this place basically up in rural New York. It is now in the middle of the city, but as the New York City grid moved up, this house did not fit that very well. And in like the late 1800s, they moved the entire house with horses. They didn't have much to show how they did that. All they could say was they moved it with horses. I don't know how they managed to move an entire, like I don't think I took a picture of the house from the outside. I should have. It's not like a small house. It's a decent sized house. This is, you can see, but you can kind of see this room here. Basically, the house is symmetrical because that was like the style at the time. And basically it was 4 corner rooms like of just this size right here. So like basically just imagine a clover leaf, a 4-leaf clover, and this room is one of the leaves, and that's the house. Like it's a decent sized house for its time. And it had, I think, a basement to it. I think the basement was converted into the visitor center or something like that. But yeah, in like the late 1800s, they up and moved the house with horses to fit into the New York City grid. And at this point in time, Hamilton didn't, like, his family didn't own it. They did point this out. Hamilton was the only founding father to have built their own house, like personally, because he was relatively poor. Not like poor, but like if you've seen the musical, you would know he was just an immigrant guy who kind of showed up, and he did have to, like, he got enough money towards the end of his life to finally actually build a house. He rented in, like, New York and whatnot throughout most of his life. He got to live in this house for 2 years, before dying. And after he died, it ended up in... It exchanged hands a bit. I think his family stayed in it for a while. Then it ended up belonging to a church. And they mentioned it was used by the church as like a chapel room, and they actually had a picture of like the seating and whatnot. They used it for services and whatnot. So it was like situated in the city grid next to the proper like church building, until I think it was literally in the 90s when the church gave it to the federal government to actually turn into a proper national like memorial, like monument, like part of the National Park Service. And then it got to be moved again, this time out of the city grid into the park, where it was more appropriate. And they had actually a really neat video of them using modern technology to basically lift the entire house over top of the like mid-rise buildings and the church it was next to, and then just shifting it over into the park and then setting it back down. Which that video demonstrating really made it, like, I guess demonstrated like how the hell they moved it with horses the first time. I don't fucking know, because it seemed very difficult to do with modern equipment carefully. But yeah, throughout that process, basically, yeah, this house, it didn't survive very well, and that's why also not a lot of the furniture inside the original either. They had to renovate it quite a bit to get into the state that it currently is in. Anyway, story time over with the Hamilton house. Actually, but before we get to Hamilton the musical itself, which we watched tonight, one last thing we did do right nearby the musical was we went to the Museum of Broadway, which this is the only picture I have from that museum because that was more of something that made sense to my sister. But also I think a lot of it wasn't like, I mean, there were some interesting stuff, like they had like a lot of the original outfits from various musicals across New York history, but a lot of it was also just like, we set up a scene for you to take pictures of yourself in, like you're in the musical. It wasn't the most, like, to me at least, not like stuff for me to take pictures of and share type thing. But this is one thing, this is an actual outfit from the original like Hamilton run, like of the musical. But yeah, anyway, that aside, we saw Hamilton the musical like in person. I'd seen it before through like the Disney Plus recording of it, which if you've seen, you would recognize this stage. Again, couldn't take pictures during the performance, but this is the stage. This is the Hamilton stage, and it's pretty recognizable in that sense, I think. But yeah, really good. I not the original cast. Neither of the ones we went to were the original cast, but like we wouldn't have known that for Hades. We did know that for this one, obviously, because we'd seen that, like the recording is everywhere. But still, they did fine. I liked their King George and their what's his name? Can't remember his name. The one guy. Not Thomas Jefferson. But I guess in the second half it's Philip, his son, but I can't remember what his character he plays in the first half. But anyway, they did fine. I think their Thomas Jefferson kind of sucked, but anyway, that was that. And again, like the other musical, we stayed after and got like autographs from my sister. Got autographs from like the actors and whatnot, performers, whatever. And yeah. Anyway, day 5. We did some museum. This day was a little bit of a mess, for reasons. But yeah, we went up to, the original plan was the Guggenheim and then the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but I swapped that with the Museum of Natural History because I thought it would work better than it did. But anyway, first thing we did was go to the Guggenheim, which Guggenheim's over here on this side of Central Park, so we had to like go up and then cross over. And I didn't take pictures on the way. Apparently the pictures I have of Central Park were on the way back. But yeah, Guggenheim, famous building, very, very recognizable. If you don't know the name, you probably at least recognize the building itself, maybe, is the inside. And it's a modern art museum, so like not a lot it's modern art. If you've been to a modern art museum, you know what a lot of that ends up being. It's kind of interesting and very choice taste. Oh yeah, this is a UNESCO plaque because this is technically also part of a World Heritage Site. But yeah, like this type of art, there's a lot of it. Not stuff that I really felt like the need to take pictures of. For some reason, a lot of the museum was like these pieces by one particular artist. Like I think like 60% of the stuff in the museum right now was like by the same artist, and it was all very similar stuff, and it was kind of meh. I don't know what was up with that, but they did have some interesting stuff. Like this is a Van Gogh piece, I believe. They had a couple pieces by Van Gogh and by Goya, I think, and I have a couple pictures of those. I didn't take pictures of the plaque. I don't know which is which. I know this one was Van Gogh, but I think one of these is like Goya. But yeah, and then they had this piece. This either makes no sense to those viewing, or they fully recognize this. I recognize it because I am familiar with it from Donkey. No, not quite. This is a piece called Comedian, and yes, Brie. This gets brought up in art classes a lot because on basically the question of what is art, art history teachers really like to bring this one up for that very purpose, because this is what the artist's piece is. It's a banana duct taped to a wall, and that's it. That is the photo. That is the art piece. And apparently he's given this piece, quote unquote, to like 5 modern art museums with the specific instructions of how to recreate the piece repeatedly over time as the banana rots and needs to be replaced. So yeah, modern art. But yeah, that to me, it's just really funny because this was like the one that I went in here and saw. I was like, okay, yeah, I actually know that because it's just got a funny story to it. But anyway, now we got pictures of Central Park as we cross back over to the other side of Central Park to the Natural History Museum, because I thought 2 art museums back to back wouldn't be that great because we were in the Guggenheim for like 2 hours. However, it is worth noting Central Park is a lot bigger than I think than you might realize not living there. It takes literally 20 minutes of walking to get from one side to the other, going the short way. Going the long way, it's like over an hour. But going the short way, it's like a 20-minute walk. And annoyingly, there's only subway access on one side for some reason. So we got off the subway, had to cross it to get over to the Guggenheim, and then cross it again to get back to the Natural History Museum. But yeah, we got pictures of it. Here's a Hamilton statue that's in Central Park. Is Central Park a national park? No, it is a city park. It belongs to New York City. It is not a national park. It is big though. I don't blame you for thinking that. It is probably noteworthy enough maybe to justify being one, but that would require the federal government taking it from New York City, which I don't think would work out well. Yeah, this is an Egyptian obelisk. This is an actual Egyptian obelisk, like from Egypt. And there's I think been some controversy because I think the Egyptian government doesn't like that it's out in the open, outdoors, because like weathering, but it's here. Anyway, Egypt gave it to the city, so they can do what they want with it. Like this was not Britished. We were given this. So, but yeah, that's an actual obelisk. This was random. I did see this. This is just a statue they have in the park of a Polish king. Yeah, I don't know why there's a Polish king monument in the middle of Central Park, but it's there. Wasn't pretty, yeah. There was some stuff in the Natural History Museum that was British, and the museum actually does point this out, and there's displays that say like, hey, we removed this and are trying to return it, etc. But yeah, this is in the middle of Central Park. This is called Belvedere Castle, I guess. And as it was read on this plaque, this is basically was not a proper like castle. Like this is the entire building here for the most part. But it was described as being something that a guy built to monitor weather, I think. So it's just like a little thing that's in Central Park there. Got some more pictures and views from it. But yeah, anyway, got it back across. Here's the Natural History Museum. It's very, very, very big. In fact, so big that I think I would genuinely say it's the largest museum I've ever been in. Which is saying something because I've been in a lot of large museums. I've been in pretty much most of the Smithsonian's. I've been in most of the ones in Chicago. I've been in the Toronto's Royal Museum. I've been in some of the really big ones in Rome. This, I think, is genuinely the largest museum I've been in. It's insane, actually, how big the Natural History Museum is. And my sister, who had even more recently been to the Smithsonian's, definitively said that, yes, this was way bigger than the Smithsonian's. We did not remotely come close to seeing everything in this museum. In fact, we got here, I think, roughly around 1 o'clock. It closed at 5. We were in there for the 4 hours that we could, and we maybe got through half of it. Maybe. To really truly justified, not to really truly go to this museum and I think come out not feeling like you didn't finish it. You need to go there when it opens and stay there for the entire day, which is where the mistakes came from this day. But we still got to see a lot of it. This is like the big entrance hall. They had some dinosaurs in here. I also think this is the museum that's in Night at the Museum, if you're familiar with that movie. It's kind of got that claim to fame. But anyway, in this big, like, main entry thing, you can see here, like, there's 4 of these, like, big Theodore Roosevelt, like, I think I assume they're quotes, but like kind of like ideologies of his. If you want to like read them, you can in post go through and pause. But like I thought that was neat. They just had these up on the wall there because he was like kind of a significant part of making this museum happen. But anyway, they had some animal like displays. Dude Winton, as you can see here, Winton. I made sure to take pictures of Winton. Also Canadian geese. But they had like several rooms, like see here with like these little animals back here, are, like scenes like this for various animal species. So like this room I think was all African ones. Like each one was dedicated like to 1 or 2 different animals. And they had the big elephants here in the middle because they were, I guess, too big for those types of things. And then they had like a room like that for Asia and a room like that for like the Americas and whatnot. Like they had a lot of just animal scenes with like descriptions and whatnot and showing their like habitat range, etc. And then like a massive amount of this first floor was just human history, not human history, well, yeah, ancient human history, basically. More like cultural stuff. Like this is a Mesopotamian stele. There's like these were like things that ancient rulers would like erect in locations, just kind of to like signify their rule and like leave historical record of their rule, like what happened while they rule. Like, so maybe they might like put one up after they won a battle and conquered a city, or maybe they just put one up just to describe the stuff that happened while they were king or whatnot, like stuff like that. This is a bust of Alexander the Great. This here I believe is an exhibit for not Inuit, that's in the wrong, what's the thing I'm trying to think of, Japan, Hokkaido, Ainu. Yeah, they had like exhibit on Ainu. They had exhibits on like every culture as you went through. It was again massive. I took a small fraction of pictures of stuff. This is displaying like Ainu clothing and way of life and whatnot. They had this was in like the Japan art. Oh, this is I think like a tradition, like a little model traditional Japanese house manor. Like this was a more wealthy home. This is like a Buddhist shrine, I believe. This one here is like a Chinese traditional, like it's supposed to be like a traditional like Chinese shrine type thing. This, as you can read, is a birthday gift to a Chinese emperor. The plate. I actually don't know if it's supposed to be a plate. I don't think it's a plate. It's just like an art piece made from jade. But yeah, this is like I think a Mongolian uniform. I say I think. I know. I remember. I remember what things are. I just yeah. This was like a Mongolian not warrior isn't the right word, but soldier outfit and weapon. This here's like a Cossack exhibit they had, which I thought was neat. Here they had a part of the museum where you could actually like look back into their like archives, like their storage area basically. Like they had this closer up part here you could see through the window, like things are actually properly displaying, but then you could see like back and behind it where like all their shelves and stuff of where they were just keeping things. That was like a decent size area. This is like alternate like back entrance to the area. This I thought looked neat. This is an Olmec head, which is a civilization that predates like the Aztecs down in like Mexico, like southern Mexico area. They built these giant heads. Just one of them. This I believe is an Aztec calendar wheel. It's pretty big. You can't, I guess, see scale in this picture, but this is probably like two humans tall, roughly ish, kind of. This I believe here is supposed to be showing like a schematic for like a city, an ancient like Aztec city layout. But I'm assuming I think this is in the Aztec section. So, and they had like a bunch of little. Oh no, not there yet. This is I think it's an Aztec like pillar. Then they had a bunch of like little models of a few different Aztec and Mayan ruins. This is I believe this is supposed to be Chichen Itza. And as Bree pointed out to me when I shared it previously, it's actually demonstrating how they like built it in layers, like the interior they build on top of it to make it like bigger and whatnot. This is another like Mayan statue type thing. This is another building in Chichen Itza. Kind of see down here. But this is another model of something located in Chichen Itza. This I believe is Tikal. Mayan city of Tikal, one of the structures in the Mayan city of Tikal, one of the pyramids there. This one just straight up tells, I kept the tag in Rio Bequi, Campeche, Mexico. So this is a ancient structure there, or a model of it. Here's the start. Everything I showed you just so far was just the first floor. There's 4 floors of this place, and I didn't take very many pictures on that first floor. They're massive. By the point we were getting there, we were realizing we're not finishing this place today, like, even kind of. So we started moving to the things we for sure wanted to see. So the entire top floor, the 4th floor of the place, is where they had the dinosaur like skeletons, and fossils and whatnot. So we got a few pictures of some various dinosaur fossils, Triceratops, Mammoth. This guy, this is I believe, Brontosaurus. He just had his entire this room you see here walking into. It was just his. Like this was the only thing in that room. It's massive. And so they just they gave it an entire room, and I guess it is. I realize here labeled orientation center because there's like kind of a space back here where you can give like a TED talk or something. Yeah. And the other thing I did take pictures of while we were still there, we went through the like gemstone section. They had a gemstone display. Lots of like, it's a neat part of, I think, museums. You get to see things, but along with that, they had these absolutely gigantic geodes. You got a Minecraft geode right here, and this is another one, like right behind it. I think, yeah, I believe this is the one right behind it. The angle's on this weird. Maybe there were 4, and I only took pictures of these 2, and that's not what this back here was. But yeah, these were massive. You can kind of get a scale with the people on these, but they're very large. I thought that was neat. And that pretty much covers what we did get to see. Like I said, we got to see pretty much everything on that first floor. Then we very quickly went through the 4th floor where you could see the dinosaur stuff. And then this mineral one was down on the lowest floor. Because it was a basement level, so the 4 floors was basement first, second, and then what I was calling fourth, I think, was really the 3rd. But anyway, yeah, we didn't really get to see much of the 2nd floor, and we didn't really get to see much of that basement floor. We kind of quickly went to the mineral because we were like, we want to see that part, because that's always a cool part of a museum. If I went back to New York City, going back to this museum and just spending an entire day there to properly see the whole thing would definitely be on my list of things to do, because yeah, we kind of skimmed this museum, but it was still really cool. It was an amazing museum. But yeah, that was really cool. Anyway, next day we do the Flatiron district, like Flatiron area, which, if you don't know what the Flatiron is, because I had to explain this to some of my family members, it's the Triangle building in New York. It's the very recognizable Triangle building, and then just this stuff around it. And then the Met, aka the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is what is up here. The Flatiron stuff's down here. We walked to that, and then we walked back, and then we took the subway up to the Met. But yeah, Flatiron first. We walked to it. This was maybe a mistake because this was Sunday and it was Pride Month, and so a Pride parade happened in this part of the city. And you know, Pride, cool, no problems with that. I do, however, have issue when I'm on my vacation and want to get somewhere by walking and everything is fenced off by the police for a parade. Regardless of the contents of the parade, it was very annoying to traverse the area because that was not our intention while going there. We just kind of walked down and was like, oh, hey, this is happening. So this was the day we ended up in the middle of that. But yeah, on the way, there's a statue of William Seward, who I guess was a New York senator. He's more famous for things related to Alaska than he is New York City, I think, but they had a statue of him here on the way. There's the Flatiron building, which, if you didn't know what it was, now you probably recognize and realize what I'm talking about. It had this little like obelisk thing outside. Unfortunately, as you can see in the picture, it was under construction. You can also see all this, like the remnant, not the remnants, but because this was early in the day, so they were still setting it up. This is stuff for the parade. This was everywhere, and we were getting rooted around it. It made the walk a bit more time consuming than originally intended. But yeah, the lower half of the Flatiron building, unfortunately, was under construction, which also meant you couldn't enter it. I mean, I think all that's inside of it, really that's accessible, is like some commercial shops, like some basic stores. Nothing crazy, but like it, unfortunately, you know, only could see the top half of the building. But it is what it is. It's New York City. There's some stuff was going to be under construction. So, further south of that was also this. Something I didn't realize was in New York City until I was there, but this is the Washington Arch. It's a triumphal arch. I believe it was built, and you can actually, I think, see it. It's for commemorating the 100th anniversary of George Washington's inauguration. And it's just in a park down south of the Flatiron building. And also, you can see here, there's just a ton of police here while we were there, because again, the parade was being prepped, and the police were everywhere, like setting up and securing it, I guess. So yeah, there's just like another crowd of like 40 police underneath the arch while we were here looking at it. Anyway, also nearby was this place. This is Theodore Roosevelt's birthplace, because he's from New York City, as both the Roosevelts were, and the Roosevelt family in general was a pretty well-known, wealthy family of the area. This was the building he was born. It's called a brown house, brown brick, something like that. Because apparently this was a very common style of building. Like they have these brown bricks, just rows and rows of them. Not really in this area anymore. This one just kind of survives because of its historical significance. Yeah, I think you can see here the black more easily denoting what it is. He didn't live here as an adult, but he lived here as like a child. This was his grandfather's house and then his father's house. And his father is also Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt, the president, is actually Theodore Roosevelt Jr. But yeah, I believe. Oh, I think either it was his grandfather's house and then became his father's, or his grandfather bought it for his father, something like that. But anyway, in the exhibit in the like guest and like the visitor center area, there's this. It's this memorial plaque thing made from like metal from the USS Maine, which if you don't know is a U.S. warship that sunk out near Cuba and sparked the Spanish-American War, which Theodore Roosevelt like fought, and that was the war that he fought in when he was in the military. Hence why it's here. Yeah, in his house. I think a decent bit more of the like furniture and stuff in here is original compared to the Hamilton one. Like this piano again, the piano was original. They definitively know that. They point out the wallpaper was basically original, because this became a historic site quite a bit earlier than Hamilton's. It was like in the the mid 1900s, so like a decent bit after he was president, but like still recent. Like the house hadn't really been touched for other purposes. That his family had just been living there. And this wallpaper, I think the tour guide told us basically it's not the original wallpaper, but they basically had the receipts for the original wallpaper and went to the same place and got the exact same thing. So it's practically the original stuff. This is a chandelier in the main living room. Their family would like Dutch family that like dealt in glass, so this was presumably something that they themselves supplied, like and just had, and therefore had for their chandelier. This is like the library room. She pointed out this. This was something that they got during the Roosevelt's, like they went on a vacation to Egypt. This was something they got there. But also she pointed out all the like chairs and couches in the library room here were made from horsehair. Like this is horsehair and was stuffed with horsehair, which Theodore Roosevelt, like a junior, like the president, was allergic to. He was also asthmatic, so like this room made him suffer, despite the fact that he really liked reading and the stories and whatnot as a kid. So because all the furniture caused him allergic reactions and made it difficult, this chair was made for, like they had this chair custom made for him. It was his chair. And you will actually, if you go look at pictures of Theodore Roosevelt as a child, he was often photographed in this chair. They used it when getting their photographs, I guess. They would often sit him in it. So this chair is actually a little bit recognizable if you're a Wikipedia like rat like me and scour things and see things. Like, if you want to go pull up Theodore Roosevelt's Wikipedia page and scroll, you'll probably see a picture of him sitting in this chair as a child, more than likely. And this is the chair. This is the original chair. So yeah. And the other picture I took in here was this. They pointed out this china set is not something that the family owned, but basically when this building was being made into the National Monument or Historic Site, whatever, Eleanor Roosevelt was involved, and she personally thought that, like, hey, there really needs to be like a nice china set in the dining room. And so she custom designed this china set for them and provided it and donated it to the site. So, like, is it relevant to Theodore Roosevelt and his family? Not really, but like it's kind of still interesting because Eleanor Roosevelt was involved with creating it. But yeah. Anyway, that's that. That was the last like big thing. While we were down in the Flatiron district, the other things we kind of did, we went to another Lego store there. Actually, no, we didn't that day. It was closed. This was Sunday. The Lego store was closed on Sunday, which annoyed me. But which I mean, not crazy. We already went to one, but like I like to go to the Lego stores because you can get like passport stamps and like at each Lego store and collect those. So for each store, so I was doing that anyway. And then there was like the Harry Potter stores down there. My sister's really into Harry Potter, so you know, that was a thing we went to as well. But yeah, getting back was a pain because by that point the parade was happening, which we had to like do some really weird weaving around the blocks to get back. It was not the nice straight line that we got there on, but anyway. Yeah, Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is another very similar case to the Natural History Museum in that it's massive. We did not finish it. This was one where you needed to be here the entire day from opening to closing, I think, to properly go through everything in this museum. But we'll see the stuff that we did get to see. We got, again, probably maybe about half of the museum we got to see. In the entryway, they had this big, like, Egyptian monument, like, statue, pharaoh, I presume pharaoh statue. This here, I think the first section we went through was, like, Byzantine stuff, and this is a Byzantine Bible. Is neat. The Roman emperor bust, I believe, for you there, it's Antonius Pius, is that right? Antonius Pius, yeah. Imperial bust, I believe there's some other noteworthy busts, King Philip, and there's a Julius Caesar bust. Oh, this is like a little ship goblet thing I thought was really neat and highly detailed that I took a picture of, I guess. Thought was cool enough to take a picture of. Oh, and so is this. It was like a little, like, figurine of death, like the horseman of the apocalypse, death, that they had. They had a ton of, like, medieval art. I did not take much pictures of medieval art because it's all very same-ish. Like, this is a medieval painting of Mary. This is a medieval painting of Jesus. This is a medieval painting of Mary with baby Jesus, etc. Like, it's 90% of medieval art is. So they had a ton of that, but these were some parts of it that I thought were interesting. They also had this crown from Peru and South America and whatnot. I don't know why there was a Peruvian crown, but there was, and we have it at the Met for some reason. It's just an upper view down into like a statue hall. This is an upper view of like the medieval armor. This is a room we didn't actually get to go through ourselves. We just saw it from above while we were going through this floor, and I was like, man, I wish we could have went through that room. That's a cool room. But I took a picture of it because big medieval suits of plate armor. It's neat. And lots of paintings. Again, I don't take a lot of pictures of just paintings, but I did take pictures of like the famous ones. And these ones are so famous to the point where I'm like, I'm not sure if these are like truly the original or if there's just enough kind of original-ish copies from the time around that the Met has some of them. I don't know. Like this Columbus one. This is a pretty recognizable picture of Columbus, like recognizable painting of Columbus. I don't know if this is truly the original one or not. I think I'd often check these, but I don't think they really mention whether they were truly original or not, or they were like copies or what. I would think that no mention of it being a copy means it is the original, but like at the same time, it's like, is the original's here? Another case, like this one I know isn't. This is a newspaper printing copy of this portrait of George Washington. But like these American paintings, like I guess this one I could see being original because again, George Washington's presidency was here in New York City. But some of these other ones is like is this really where the original is, or is this a copy and the original is where I would assume be in the Smithsonian in DC? Like that's a Ben Franklin. This is good, I guess. I know that guy. Yeah, I think Bree would know several of these guys. There's a statue of Lincoln, really good. This one's also, you can tell, is a newspaper copy, but it's the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It's a pretty recognizable painting. This is a painting of Queen Victoria. Another one is like, I don't know how this is here, but again, they had like a shit ton of like European art too. Like this floor that we're on was like half of it was European art. So this is just one of the ones I took a picture of because it's Queen Victoria. Oh, this is another pretty recognizable one. This is Socrates' death. This one's almost certainly couldn't be the original. Like, that's a pretty famous European art piece. This one here. This is another one. This is one I was like, this is a massive piece, by the way. This is the crossing to the Delaware. I think everyone, like, I won't say everyone's seen this painting, but this is probably like the painting from the American Revolution. And it's huge, by the way. This guy looks like a weird, maybe angle view side. No, this painting is probably like a couple people tall, and wide. It took up the whole wall of this room. And it's the one, like, again, like, I would think the original would be in the Smithsonian, because this is a really famous American painting, but maybe it is here in the Met. Maybe this is the original. I don't know. But yeah, it's this well-known American painting. And yeah, that was the Met. Again, that's another one. The Natural History Museum and the Met are the two, like, museums. You need a stay here if I come back to New York City ever. That's on my list again to do and go through more thoroughly. But still, the parts we did get to see were cool. Yeah. Anyway, day 7. We're nearing the end. This is when we went down to the financial district again and went to the World Trade Center and saw the memorial and stuff there. But first things we did down in the financial district here is, I'm gonna say 2 churches, but kind of one that just has 2 buildings. This is Trinity Church, of Hamilton musical fame. It's the church that Hamilton went to, and it's a Episcopalian church, so it's a Protestant church. Means inside still neat, nothing crazy. It's not like Catholic levels of like put art everywhere, but still, a neat on the inside. But the more noteworthy thing of this church, I think, the thing that people go for, is the outside. It's basically the oldest cemetery of New York City. This is a big like cross monument they have in the middle of it, but it's got a few famous graves at it. This is Robert Fulton. He invented the steamboat, I believe. So pretty noteworthy. More noteworthy though is it's where Alexander Hamilton is buried. This is Alexander Hamilton's grave. And right next to it is Eliza Schuyler, aka his wife. And over here, the sign denoting it is kind of weird. I think it's supposed to be this grave here. But Philip Hamilton is his oldest son. And over here is Angelica Schuyler. Again, if you've seen the musical, you know who it's his wife's sister. This is this plaque noting it. Like this behind the plaque is just grass. So I was a little confused as to where her grave actually was, what it was trying to point out, but like I took a picture of the plaque because that was the only really clear thing about that. But anyway, the other church down here, St. Paul's Chapel, as you can see from the sign, I think it's technically just a second building of Trinity churches. But it's got this neat design from the outside, and its most noteworthy thing is it's the church that Washington would have went to and worshipped in when he was president while he was in New York City. And there's a bunch of like plaques and various stuff in this church denoting and like that. Like for that, but the inside is like nothing crazy. This is, I think, the only picture I have really of the interior. It's just, I think it's an additional chapel for the Trinity Church because there's a lot of people. But yeah, so that's what this is. Still neat. This along the way over to the World Trade Center. This is another national monument. This is the African Burial Ground Monument. Basically, old New York City did have slaves and also free African Americans, and this site is where you kind of see over here a bunch of them are buried. I don't think it's like mass grave type burial, but it's like still, I don't know. It wasn't open, so we couldn't go in and actually see like any descriptions of it. So I'm just going based off the little that I could get from like the little plaques that you could see from outside. But basically, it's the graveyard where the Africans back in like Revolutionary time like ended up, basically, and it was like rediscovered kind of recently and given this monument for it. But again, yeah, this was Monday, so none of the actual like National Park Service stuff was open. Weirdly enough, like they are all closed on Mondays. So all we could do was walk by and kind of see that there from the outside. But yeah, anyway, World Trade Center. This is the one World Trade Center. One of the many pictures it's in because it's visible from a lot of the city pictures. And then this is like a shopping center area in the World Trade Center. There's like a I think you can actually kind of see the building here. It's a interesting building from the outside. It's this big round oval thing in the Trade Center area. If you look up at a map of the Trade Center, you'll see it. It's standout. It's not a typical New York City building. We ate in here, and I thought this like big center area was neat. It had all like the flags around the sides and pride flag and whatnot. Yeah, anyway, this is a video. This is the memorial. There's two of these, like, I guess you call it fountain, but it's the location of where the Twin Towers were. There's two of them where they are. This is, I only took like video of one because they're the exact same. Yeah, it's huge, as the buildings were very large. Yeah, then we go and there's a really, really nice museum. I think really well done recent museum for the events here that kind of goes underneath around, like basically you see this is where the building was. It extends underground basically. What this is, and there was a name for these, like the slush walls, sluice wall. I don't remember. They extend underground underneath the buildings down here in this lower part of Manhattan because all buildings struggle with an area that is this close to water. Bree might understand that better. But this is remnants from the original, like the Twin Towers. And the museum is kind of underground here around them. Here's the original commemoration plaque for survived from the dedication of the Twin Towers from 1970. Or is it 70 or 79? I think of 73. But yeah, that survived. Basically, this museum had a ton, and I mean a ton, of artifacts and surviving debris from like the events of 9/11. And it was really well put together. A lot of thought and care put into like all the victims. And also they had a lot of the gifts from around the world were here for it as well. This is a surviving debris of, like, you can actually kind of see in the picture here. This is a chunk of the antenna on top of one of the towers. Yeah, that's pretty much how it felt, Shami, and we were in there for a while. It was very long. There's quite a bit. The fire truck from the day. This is a TV, like a broadcasting TV, I think, because I would assume there were probably TV stations in the building. More miscellaneous rubble. Oh yeah, these are parts of the plane, from the plane. I think they even showed like a map of how far some of these pieces ended up from the buildings. There's an ambulance. There's they got a bunch of newspapers from the day, from like around the world, because yeah, everywhere was kind of it was the news story for the day, that's for sure. Regardless of where you were. Oh yeah, this. I say I don't know why they took it. It's pretty clear. This is a brick from Osama bin Laden's compound. It's here. They had a bit of stuff from when they invaded that. Yeah, they're here. This is a model. This is they had a bunch of stuff about the whole military operation to go in and kill him. And so this was like the actual like place he was hiding out in Pakistan, like a model of it. And for whatever reason, they got a brick. I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny. It was like, what? But anyway, they had a brick from it here. And this is the flag they rose, and this is a pretty famous picture. But yeah, this is how we yeah, there was a significant section of this museum dedicated to, hey, we killed the guy, here's how we did it. And they had actually a really good video demonstrating like every little thing that happened. Like, here's the guys we had, here's where all of them went as they went, like basic computer animated thing of like they had like an initial plan. They were gonna fly in the 2 helicopters, one over the building and one like here. I can go back to here. They were gonna have basically 1 helicopter over this courtyard here and 1 directly over the building. But then like the first one came in to go over this courtyard, crashed. It ended up crashing into the wall out here. So they basically had to go with, because they were gonna have the one above the building like drop them on top and clear it from the top down, and these guys would be out here clearing the other stuff. But because the first one fucking crashed, they evacuated and basically went with plan B, which was land the other helicopter out here and then clear it from the ground up, like with both teams together. But then they had a very like fucking 2010 style interviews with CIA agents and military agents where their faces were like black, like the light was coming from behind them, so you couldn't see their faces and everything, but you could see like their outline, their silhouette from the light behind them. And their names weren't given, but they detailed the operation for killing him very, very much. And oh, you can see the brick back here again. That was the whole section of the museum. That was the part probably to make people feel better, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, very, like you said, very American, Shami. But yeah, they also had a really good video. Oh, I really liked it because I didn't know about this. They had a really good video narrated by Tom Hanks of all people, about how they evacuated Manhattan, because like during it, the million people living on Manhattan didn't know what was going on, obviously, so everyone thought they were getting like bombed or whatnot, and were fleeing trying to flee Manhattan, which is an island, but all the transit got shut down because of what was going on. So the only way they could get off the island was through boats. So they actually had a really good video demonstrating how like they had just tons and tons of boats, both like National Guard, ferry services, and like private boats, like evacuating people off of the island, and how they just kind of impromptu did that without like any planned coordination or anything. And they evacuated 500,000 people like by boat from Manhattan, which is like, I guess historically the most people to have been evacuated by water before. And they had a really good like 10-minute documentary on that part of the day. It was really neat. I didn't know that was a thing that happened. But yeah, it was a really good museum. I didn't take a ton of pictures of like the artifacts, because they went in full detail of like anything you could think of for that day they had in there. Stuff from the victims and their personal belongings that their families donated just in memory of them. Lots of stuff from like the firefighters, police, and like the healthcare like service members, like all their uniforms and helmets and stuff detail, like just every little detail. I didn't take a lot of pictures of all that type of stuff. A lot of it didn't seem like appropriate for pictures necessarily to share. But it was really well done. Absolutely well put together. Highly recommend it. But yeah, that was our last day there. I don't think we did anything else that day after that. At least not that I'm remembering. So that just leaves the last day for when we were leaving. Hoo boy. But before we leave, we do actually go back to the Lego store down in the Flatiron district that was not open on the day we went because I really wanted that stamp. That's the only thing we actually like did in the city though while we were still there. So nothing like pictures wise. So this is the last picture in the slideshow. It's just here for me because I knew for a fact I was gonna sit here talking about this, just the hell that it was to get out of the damn city. We foreshadowed this earlier with the damn World Cup. It hadn't been really relevant. Like, it was interesting several of the nights in Times Square because we walked past it. Like, there were clearly obvious, like, crowds, large crowds of people from one country, or whoever was playing at the time, I guess. Like, one night there was, like, basically a massive Colombia, like, crowd from Colombia. And another night was, like, I don't know, Germany, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, like, so that was the thing. It was kind of like, you know, whatever. But then, God, this was Tuesday, the Tuesday on the way back. Apparently a game was actually happening in New York itself, not like in the World Cup somewhere amongst one of the many cities where games are happening, but it was happening in the New York Stadium, which is in New Jersey, don't worry about that. But it was the New York Stadium anyway. So the way the transit officials, I guess, decided that this should work is fuck everyone but people who want to go to the game. Our flight was at 4. We needed to get to the Newark airport, which is ignore this arrow. The arrow is just kind of pointing like out of the city. But the Newark airport's like somewhere, if we're to continue on the map, like over here-ish, kind of. It's way out of the city. Normally, it would take maybe an hour, I would say, to get between there, because you can normally go to Penn Station, where we came in on, and take a direct train, basically to the Newark airport. You have to make like one transfer onto the New Jersey line that goes into the airport, but it's pretty much direct. So New York decided, no, you don't get that. Penn Station is for the FIFA game, and that's it. No one else can enter for 4 hours. And of course, those 4 hours were during the time where we needed to be traveling from New York City to the airport to get there for our trip, or for our flight out. So we had to go through and this was with luggage, by the way. We had to go through a whole ton of rerouting from various officials, like not only around fencing and whatnot, trying to corral fucking soccer fans to their game, but also like get around that, and then ask like 4 or 5 different people along the way, like, how the hell do we get to the airport? How the hell do we get to the airport? Like, because the like phone direction, like every other time we want to go between 2 points, we just go into fucking the Maps app and be like, okay, I'm here. How do I get here? And it give you the convenient, like, okay, get on this train, whatever, walk through here. That didn't work during this because like the phone doesn't know what the hell is going on. So we had to like get rerouted like from Penn Station and walk like another 20 minutes south or whatever with our luggage to another random station, and then talk to the guy in there, figure out what trains we needed to get on, because we needed to make like 3 transfers from like indirect stuff that took us out of New York City, then to Newark, and then to the airport in Newark. It was hell. And I'm just glad that we left 2 hours earlier than we needed to, just because we didn't have anything else to do. Because we basically showed up when we needed to show up. We got to the airport like an hour before the flight left. So, you know, perfect amount of time to check our bags, go through security, and get in, wait like 20 minutes, and then get on the airplane. Yeah, it was hell. Also, it didn't help that when we got to the airport, I needed to check a bag. I didn't pre-check them. I didn't prepay for the checking, so I had to do the whole thing. And fucking airports only take physical cards. They can't take cash, or at least Newark Airport couldn't take cash and couldn't take fucking tap to pay. So I had to use my physical card, which normally wouldn't be a big deal, but I, at the time, wanted to use a card that wasn't on me, which annoyed me, but I couldn't do that. That pissed me off. Like, what the hell? Why in the year of our Lord, fucking 2026, an airport can't use different fucking ways of paying? Like, a fucking street vendor can handle fucking 3 different methods of paying, but what? Anyway, that aside, that annoyed me. And I was already annoyed from the general day of getting there. Probably wouldn't have been as bad otherwise, but yeah, an hour is pushing it. An hour is pushing it during like busy times. And to be fair, the security wasn't like light, but it wasn't long either. I don't know. I'm comfortable with an hour at the airport. I feel like I can get through to it just fine, but I'm also usually not dealing with a ton of stuff. Like, I usually only have 1 bag. My sister had 1 bag, so like there's just 2 people. I don't know. An hour doesn't seem too crazy to me, but it was probably less than we were expecting when we were leaving 2 hours earlier than we originally intended to. You're just saying, I mean, that's fair too. Yeah. My sister was more anxious than I was because I think she also felt like we needed to be there earlier than I do, but you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too relaxed about potentially missing a flight, or I just watch too much jet lagged and think, yeah, we can do it in fucking 20 minutes if we have to. So I don't know. But yeah, that was fun. 5 minutes, let's go. Yeah, exactly. They fucking book it 10 minutes before the plane's taking off. But yeah, we got home fine. I mean, being utterly pissed off at soccer aside, like, we got home fine. It wasn't the end of the world. Just very annoying with 2 suitcases walking around a city. Yeah, that was the trip. The annoying final day aside, it was great. I had a fun time. I'd never been to New York City before, neither had my sister. We got to see a lot more of the stuff I had listed out as potential things to do there than I expected to be able to do in the time. Granted, 2 of those big things needed more time than I gave them, but like, I couldn't have known that. So, but yeah, really fun trip. Yeah, thank you for joining, Shami. Yeah. Now, that's all we got. I should raid you all out then. You just have a favorite food place? Starbucks. Yeah, I'm me. Like, I'm not planning out like a restaurant to eat at, like booking or reservations or whatnot. I'm surprised. I expected her to be like, I want to go to this local place for such and such. She didn't really do that as much as I thought she might have. She never touched pizza. That surprised me. Fucking going to New York City and not eating pizza, but she didn't. And of course, fucking Starbucks addict over here had to go to Starbucks every 2 meals. Which was nothing special to New York City, but whatever. Not my problem. I don't care. I'm not the food person. I'm not a food person, so it's whatever. She can do things however she wants. I know she got like stuff at a Korean place at one point. That she said was okay. Trying to think of any other noteworthy. The food like cafe thing in the Metropolitan Museum of Art was really nice. I really liked that place. I thought it was really good for what you would expect from a typical museum cafe. Bagels? She did get bagels. Okay, we did actually go a couple of breakfasts to bagel places, and she got bagels for breakfast. She did do that. So I'll give her that one. I think she did that on the day we went to the United Nations headquarters, and then one other day, I forget. But yeah. I do remember getting ripped off, though, by a fucking food stall guy. I got chicken, as I often do when traveling at several different places, including at a food stall. I was like, okay, that looks fine as a chicken tender. It's fucking $20 for the same thing I get like anywhere else for like maybe 10. Like, fuck that guy. Anyway, him aside, I mean the prices were definitely more than were here. That's to be expected. I don't think they were too crazy, at least. Nothing too insane, but then again, like, I don't know. I'm not good at paying attention to that type of thing to know just how much more. I do know $20 for fucking 3 chicken tenders that weren't even that good is fucking egregious. Fuck that guy. Anyway, that's stream. That's all I got. Unless anyone else has other things they wanted to ask that I didn't think to mention. But otherwise, I'm gonna check to see if we got anyone we can raid out to. I suspect we do. Let me see here. Where's my... Yeah, that's what I expected. Jinx is still streaming, because Jinx is probably going to be streaming for, like, 3 more hours, knowing him. So, that's who we will raid out to. Thank you all for joining. I will see you another time for a more standard stream, probably Legends Arceus, if I were to guess. I haven't streamed that in a while, and I want to continue that. Maybe I'm actually thinking I might finish Metroid Prime here soon. I need to get back to that, now that I have the the maybe better mics. Also, what's the stream flashes my desktop there? Anyway, yeah. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Maybe Metroid Prime 4 will finally get finished soon. I don't know. But yeah, we'll stream some more games this week and continue on with our usual. Yeah. Bye-bye for now. I will see you then.